All right, let's get started. My name is Frank Cole, and this is Kicking the Trash Out of Your First Chapter. So let's get started with just a little disclaimer. Writing a novel is not easy, and it's not supposed to be. If it was easy, there will be so many novels out there. And there are a lot of novels out there right now, but can you imagine how many more would be there if it was easy? We want it to be hard. It needs to be challenging because when we are challenged, we write our best work. The Legend of the Last Library, the one I talked about just a second ago, was the hardest book I've ever had to write. I had to rewrite that 3 times. And it's a much better novel now because I went through that grueling rewriting process. Everyone's different. I'm a pantser. For those, I'm assuming if you clicked on this and you signed up for this course, you know the difference between a plotter and a pantser. If not, a plotter has a very serious outline of what's going to happen in their story. They know pretty much everything, and they're ready for it, and they just have to write it. A pantser, we fly by the seat of our pants. We don't know what's going to happen. We have a little bit of an outline, maybe, especially if you're writing under contract with a publisher. Publishers and editors don't really love pantsers, but I'm a discovery writer. That's how I write. Some people write in the morning, some people write at night. I am an early riser. That's when I get my best writing done, and it's not every day. So take from this what you will, and hopefully it will help you come up with a really good first chapter. First chapters, why are they so important? They, to me, are the most important because that is what you're showing the world. I go to bookstores all the time, and a lot of times I don't have anything specific in mind that I'm going to buy. I'm just going to go into the bookstore and browse, and it may be in the children's section. It may be in, I like horror novels, and I like a wide variety of books. So I may show up in any of those sections, and I'll just start picking up books. And yes, a cover or a concept will draw me in, but I'll read the first couple of pages. And if it doesn't hook me right from the get-go, I move on. That's how critical those are. It's the ignition to your vehicle. And this vehicle is going to go a long distance, and a lot of things are going to happen along this journey, but the ignition is what gets it started. Readers should be able to hear the voice of your main characters, how you are writing those characters. They should see your style, and it should be very clear to them what your writing style is. And they should be able to catch a glimpse of the world that you've created. World building is involved in everything. We're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. The main issue most authors face when they're writing their first chapters is they either overwhelm the reader or they underwhelm them. And both aren't ideal. Overwhelming them is cramming so much information into that first chapter, backstory, just everything, all the details that the author feels the reader is going to need to be able to understand this work, or they underwhelm them. And it's just a quick chapter, and at the end of reading it, readers aren't really compelled to continue on. And so you need to find a way to give them just the right amount of information that will wow them and excite them. You need to hook them, and we're gonna talk about how to do that. Okay, we're gonna talk about 4 steps on how to do this to write a great first chapter. Number 1, you have to have compelling characters, and this is kind of like you're taking yourself into this interview mode with your characters, your main characters particularly, but it could be secondary characters as well. I've had to do this multiple times when I'm writing my main characters. I have to interview them. I have to find out what makes them tick, because if I don't like them, or if I'm not interested in them, then the reader is going to feel the same way. Characters drive a story. We cheer for them. I don't believe that the adventure is enough to keep. Some authors are very successful in creating a world, and maybe their characters aren't that compelling. But the really, really successful authors are the ones that make you love those characters, and you root for them, and you cheer for them, and you want to, and you invest in them in that world. So here's the interview process that we need to go through. Number one, defining your character. Every main character should have a strength. They should have a weakness, a secret, and a goal. And if you can give them these four things, you're going to have a compelling character. The strength can be anything. It could be a superpower. It could be magic, It could be actual strength, physical strength, but it doesn't have to be. It could be something like their personality or their sense of humor or something that makes them unique that can be seen as a power. Perhaps it's their education or their background or even kindness. Maybe they're very kind and they're a great friend. That could be their strength. Their weakness could be something similar to their strength, but it hinders them in some way. And it could play a factor. It should play a factor in your novel, particularly when you deal with the villain or the antagonist in your story. The weakness is something that's going to come up again more often than not. The secret, I love the secret. I love giving the main character a secret. It can be something that's hidden from the reader, or it can be hidden from the secondary characters in the novel, and it doesn't show up until later. It's your choice. But the secret should be something that it could be a mixture of their strength or their weakness, but something that's going to really define this character throughout their adventure. And then a goal. Every character should have a goal of what they want to accomplish. It's all about their character arc, whether they're, if they're going to try to save the day from aliens invading the school, or every parent in the town is suddenly vanished and they need to solve that mystery. That could be their initial goal, but it could change too. It could be an internal goal. Maybe the main character just doesn't have friends and hasn't been able to make friends since something tragic happened in their past. And so their goal is to find some sort of balance in their life. And again, it could change throughout that story. The reader needs to see a strong character right away. Your first chapter is the key point of doing that. And I mentioned strength doesn't necessarily mean power. Strong can mean relatable, distinguishable, and or someone with a stake in the game, something to lose. That's number one. Number two, pick a strategic starting point. So what I mean by this is sometimes we plop our characters down right in the thick of some sort of action sequence, or we start from the beginning and we work that character through the entire lifespan during this novel. That is up to you. You need to ask yourself these questions. Where does it all begin? Because the beginning, again, is that ignition. And if it's a boring beginning, it's not always going to work. I'm not saying it can't work, but you should never think that your first chapter is boring for a reason. It should be compelling no matter what. You're going to introduce your reader to certain elements of the story, certain characteristics of your main character, and you need to ask yourself what those are going to be. And this can apply to a prologue or a normal chapter one. I believe they should have all of these elements as well. I actually have not written a novel, I don't think, with a prologue yet. Maybe there is one. I'll have to look at all my books and remember. It's been a long time. But I'm not against prologues at all. I love prologues. I think they're awesome ways to take a look at something that's going to happen later on in the story. It's going to explain something or define something later on in the story. But they should have the same elements that we're going to talk about. A compelling character. They should have a lot of punch, a lot of ways to ignite that story.